What up, everybody? This is Plan Your Greatness because no one else will. I will be there shortly. All right, what up, everybody? This is Plan Your Greatness. All right, and we're going to jump right into it. I want to try to make these videos, this particular series, I want to make them short as possible. I know I'm going to get off on some different things within the topic, but I want to get right to them. This is the intro. I'm breaking down every section of the book, okay? And this one is the introduction. And I believe this is part 2, because I've already done part 1. I've introduced you, because during the intro, I introduce you to the 5 stages of grief that I went through. And that is, what is that? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And so I introduced you a little bit about, but then in the last video, I talked about what we were going to bring up. And the first one that I went through is denial. So we're going to get right to it, because here's what's crazy about that is when I went into prison, this is where it became very pronounced as to what I was going through. But a lot of that extended before I went into prison, and you're gonna hear me make reference to that. How there was this kind of free-flowing mindset as I was going through the 5 stages of grief. All right. So the first thing that was clearly obvious as far as me being in that state of denial was I was absolutely delusional. Delusional in the sense that I kept thinking that I was going through this dream. Now, for those of you who are familiar with, who are followers of hip hop like myself, if you remember Biggie Smalls, and what was the first line of his song, Juicy? let me give you my Biggie Smalls imitation. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. How'd I do? Okay. Now, reason why I bring that up is I was absolutely 100% delusional. I kept thinking that every night that I went to bed in my cell, I would close my eyes, and then when I woke up, sometimes in the middle of the night, I expected to be back in my apartment, or I expected to be back in Chicago on my mom's couch, smelling dinner being cooked, or breakfast, being awakened by the smell of bacon or whatever, or coffee or whatever. Straight delusional. I thought it was a dream. I sure did. So as I was going through that delusional mindset that I kept thinking I didn't belong there, what else I did to keep myself in that state of mind was I didn't do anything to really embrace the moment that I was in jail. Okay? I wouldn't talk to any inmates. I wouldn't talk about any subject matter. I wouldn't talk about anything. I just completely pushed myself off into a corner in my cell, and I would not talk to anybody. If anybody gave me a cellmate tried to engage with me, I would be snarky, I'd be an ass. I just didn't want to have any conversation to acknowledge this situation. I always thought, you're dumb, you shouldn't have done that. Or that was stupid. Like me being like I was free, and I was being very judgmental of the people that were in there, and I'm sitting right in there in the jail with them. Delusional. Okay? The other thing is, as I started, because at some point I started to come out of that delusional state. And what happened is when I came out of that delusional state, the first thing I did was I tried to be a better criminal. I started looking around and saying, oh, you knuckleheads, y'all in the dope game, you're selling dope, you're using dope. And I start calculating the numbers, and I still have those numbers to this day. So again, I was very delusional. I wasn't accepting. I kept thinking it was a dream. I thought I was going to wake up in my mom's house, wake up in my apartment. And then at some point in time, I started coming out of there like, you know what, ninja, you're in jail. And you need to start addressing this in whatever way it was. And so the first thing I did was I started looking around and saying, I could be a better criminal based on your ignorance. So that was one of the first things I did. But as I started coming more out of that, I started realizing that I had broken the interdependence that I had from my family. Okay? Baseball was a part of that. Took me away from home. Most of the time during the year, in my decade-long baseball career, I was only home 1 year for more than 45 days. All other years, I was gone. And most of the time, I was only home for 30 to 45 days at the most. All the other time, I was either in spring training, in the season, or playing winter ball. So I was never home. Completely cut off my connection with my family and my neighborhood. So now all the guys that I grew up with, I lost contact with them. So I began to create these pockets of people that I hung around with, and that was very lonely. And so it just continued on. Everyone thinks, oh, you got all this money, you're traveling as a baseball player, you're sleeping with all these beautiful women, but every step of the way, that was very lonely. So that was something that I carried into prison, and then I was going back and forth with that, realizing that I excluded people. So now I'm coming out of this denial. And then the other thing is, when you are playing at an elite level, you feel a couple of things. You feel invincible and you feel entitled. Think about that. You feel invincible to sickness, to any type of injury, and you feel entitled. You feel entitled to everything that you get, money, everything should be given to you, women, everything. So those two things actually made me be very resourceful, because if you feel invincible and you feel entitled, you know what you do? You know you're going to find a way. So now all of a sudden everything started crashing down when I had the injury. Now my invincibility was cracked. So now my invincibility my physicalness was cracked. Now it shook up my mental state. Everything that was a deficiency started coming. Special ed, dysfunctional home, barely graduated high school, wasn't very popular, quiet, so all those things just started coming back. And what it did was, instead of feeling invincible and entitled, where then I would figure out that I would be resourceful in situations, I started to see myself as lacking these resources. And so as I was going through and transforming from being in a state of delusion and denial, now I started going into the second phase, which I started getting pissed off, which is the second stage of grief, which is anger. All right. So my next video, I'm going to talk specifically about how I addressed being angry, going through that stage of anger, and how did I get out of it? Because you see, I talk specifically about how that I started off in a state of denial, delusional, but now I started coming out of it and started asking myself some questions. And what did that do? That pissed me off. I was super angry. And so in my next video, I'm going to share that with you as far as how I grew past that stage of anger to the next stage. All right, so like this video, subscribe to this video, and share this video, because this is Carlton Hamilton. This is Plan Your Greatness. As you see, it is a grind. It is not easy. I went through some ups and downs, so it's not an easy process to get to your greatness. That's why I call my book and this channel Plan. Be very intentional. Plan your greatness. And you know why? Because no one else will. All right, I will see you guys all next time.